I'm Natasha, and if you're watching this, I'm going to talk about the planet Saturn. So, to start off with, what is Saturn? So, I like to explain if Saturn was an actual human figure or archetype, Saturn would be a very restrictive, kind of stoic, reserved kind of person. This is the kind of person, if Saturn was a human being, this person would have like 2, 3 outfits in their closet, and they would just put that on rotation. They'd only own 1 or 2 pairs of shoes. They would be so focused on working on their craft or whatever they're passionate about every single day, almost all day long, to do the hard work, figure out the setbacks, the hardships, the weird things that they didn't know about before every single day in order to master whatever craft or thing that they are trying to develop, grow, build, whatever it is, into something a lot bigger. And so Saturn energy, if it was like a person, understands this hard dedication that is so freaking slow. It is not short-term fast. It is thinking about longevity, what is going to last the test of time, what is going to be durable and reliable, what is going to build a very strong foundation, this strong basis in order to then build up. But if your foundation is really weak or it was rushed, you didn't think about all the little things and details and all these different outliers that you might not encounter on a regular day basis. And sometimes that just requires experience and life experience, and things in the world also change, and then you have to maneuver around things like that. So Saturn understands this long, very hard, restrictive energy, but it is something that it is willing to work on. It is something that it is passionate about in order to do it. Otherwise, if you don't care about it, usually you have zero motivation to even try, but Saturn understands if you really want something, like you really want it, and it seems so unreachable and far away, well, you still have to start somewhere. You have to figure out the process, try it, actually get out there and try try again, but never quit, never change your mind, not like, oh, I don't think this is for me because it was hard. No, Saturn energy understands that you have to push through hardship. You have to be restricted and squeezed. So Saturn, just like the figure that only owns 2 outfits in their closet, they know that even though they want all these things, they want nice things, they want luxury, like a luxury lifestyle, they want a lot of money, they want status, that you just don't get there if you started from absolutely nothing. They didn't get an inheritance of like, oh, all the work is done, and so you just get to enjoy. That's not Saturn. So Saturn understands that if I want something in the long run that's going to last and be secured or make me feel successful, then I'm going to spend, a period of time or maybe a long time being very restrictive. Like, even though I want something and I have the money to go get it, that doesn't mean I go get it. That's Saturn. It's like, no, I have to restrict right now. I need to save 90% of my income in order to start this business that I'm so devoted to. It is the, Jeff Bezos in an office starting from nothing. It is all these big CEOs that started from nothing and now they're huge empires, but nobody really wants to really look and feel the burden and pain and hardship of the process. but that is Saturn energy. And Saturn takes about 30 years to go through all of the 12 zodiac signs. So that's how slow it is. So everyone experiences their first Saturn return in the age bubble of 30. You might enter your Saturn return lesson around the age 27, 28, and you might think, this is great, this is what I want, or whatever. And then a little bit after the age of 30, 31, 32, 33, it plays out differently based on what lessons are you supposed to be learning, or what did you avoid, or you just didn't quite get it without this real life experience. And so after that, you might have a different shift in perspective. You become more of a real adult, not this paper legal adult, like you're 18, therefore you're an adult in the eyes of the government. As a more mature human being, you've kind of crossed that little mountain of maturity in some way, like another level. Not saying that if you're younger than 30, that you're not mature. That's not what I'm saying. But, you go through this Saturn return approximately every 30 years. Usually Saturn's energy gets a little bit lighter after the age of 40, like around 40 and after, and so it just takes a really long time. It is something you have to work on. If you know what zodiac sign your Saturn is in and what house it is in, you can kind of understand what struggles you're trying to learn. And usually it's very hard. It's not easy for you, or it doesn't come easy for you. You always have to work really hard in this department in life, no matter how hard you try, and it'll just keep testing you. Saturn is like the strictest teacher in school, and nobody wants this teacher. But the teacher is that way because that person actually wants you to do really well. Like if you had the strictest teacher in high school and you survived that teacher and they put all these red marks, all these lines, and you thought you did so well, and you get it back and you're like, I got a freaking D or an F, and there's all these lines, and like, how can I do extra credit or whatever? And you turn it in and you get it back and you get even more red lines. You're like, and then you see Jilly Bo Bob and Sally Mae Sue in the other class with one of the most fun, easy teachers, and they're getting A's and they hardly have to do anything, and you're like, ugh, it's not fair. Like, this teacher is going to ruin my GPA and I'm not going to be able to get into the college that I want because I just happen to get a really hard teacher. But if you really survived that really strict Saturn teacher who did not take it easy on you because they wanted you to survive, they wanted to teach you the things the right way so well right now while you were under their wing, under their guardianship. So this way, when you're off in the real world where life is actually hard, it's not that bad because you actually went through brutal training under the shelter or mentorship of a teacher, if they actually approached it like a mentor, because I know not all teachers have the time to do stuff like that or care, So, that is Saturn. It is brutal. It's hard. It's nitpicky. It's a pain in the butt. And it keeps kind of like setting you back over and over and over, delays. It makes you end up doing more work. You have to try and fix the work that you already thought you did, and you don't even know what you're doing wrong because you thought you were doing pretty well, and they have to find something else for them to nitpick at you, And so once you go to college or whatever, you survived. It's a piece of cake. College is a piece of cake because you did the brutal training. You're already prepared, while the other Sally Mae Sue, whoever, Billy Joe Bob, went to the easy teacher, and now they're struggling. They're making D's and F's, having to repeat classes, pay for more tuition. They're not able to have fun in college and go to parties and stuff because they're so busy now trying to figure it out because they got the easy way in high school. So that's another way to kind of try and comprehend this Saturn archetype, because Saturn is freaking slow. It is no fun. It always has setbacks. It makes you feel really squeezed wherever it is. Like if you have Saturn in the 5th house, the house of fun, house of play, dating, self-expression, it's the Leo house. It's going to be like, I'm not allowed to have fun, and it's all these different outliers that it's not even your fault. It's just, it's happening to you, and or maybe you chose something, you chose to get married and you chose to have a kid, and now you have to be more responsible. There's less time to just go off and have fun and do whatever you want. You have responsibility, because Saturn is responsibility, duty, burdens, restrictions, like, oh, we need to go to the doctor's appointment, or, we have to say, oh, I'm sorry, we can't go to this party because my kid is sick and I don't want to get y'all sick, and blah, blah, blah. It is that responsibility, that squeeze, restriction in that house or that zodiac sign, or a mixture of both. So I hope I tapped into everything I wanted to say about Saturn energy. I'm a Capricorn sun, so I understand this sad story of Saturn. It is no bueno, and but it's actually very rewarding, because you actually grow, evolve, learn. That builds self-esteem, that builds resilience. You feel proud of yourself that once upon a time, like, I never talked. I'm not curious. I'm an observer. And it took me a long time to practice speaking and feeling comfortable, not having social anxiety, and learning how to ask questions. It sounds really stupid, but that's what happened for me. I have Saturn in the 3rd house of Sagittarius, and I happen to have my Chiron in the opposite, Gemini, in the 9th house. So we'll also check out your Chiron sign in the zodiac sign and the house that one is in, because they kind of might relate to each other. Because your Chiron wound, you tend to want it, or you want to be better at it. And sometimes your Saturn is going to be somewhere to where it might force you to help actually take the time over the years or whatever to kind of slowly build up and work on that Chiron wound placement over time. If you choose to work on it, because you can always choose to run away and escape and not face the reality of the situation, whatever that is for you. So that concludes my intro for Saturn. And in the next segment, hopefully I have time to just timestamp where the real zodiac sign starts. So yeah, check that out. So yeah, and please like and subscribe. Comment down below. What is your experience with Saturn? Most likely it's going to be sucky, sad stories. So just don't forget that you are on a public platform if you're sharing or oversharing. So yeah, okay, bye. Oh. So Saturn in the sign of Virgo, if you have this or you know someone around you that has Saturn in the sign of Virgo, or a little bit also if it's in the sixth house, even though it is not actually Virgo. My mom has this placement, and so on the receiving end, I am a little bit familiar with how this can play out. So you have to think of what is Virgo rule in general. It is the fine details, it is organization, lists, the day-to-day routine, the mundane, boring stuff that you need to do in order to kind of organize and, you know, be able to do something else and another thing, because that organization kind of helps in being able to do something a lot more complex and larger, or progress in some way, especially in the work field or in the healthcare sector, and overall just in daily life, because everybody has Virgo in their chart. But if you have Saturn here, it is like you have a really, really hard time with these things, and you have to work on it and work on it and work on it. And Virgo is also at times very particular and critical and a wannabe perfectionist. So you can also think about the opposite of Virgo is Pisces. So they're both very complex and filled with, you know, you could say like information or things that need to be done, or just they're just there, they exist. But Pisces is kind of like, what if, just for example, to try and explain an energy in one way, it doesn't mean it might resonate completely, but pretend that you have a book, you know, because I just wrote a book, so it's coming out soon. But what if you have a book and you have all of your pages printed out, and they're not binded or anything like that? The information is there. Their words are on every single piece of paper. There's some sort of organization to it, wording, grammar, table of context, pages, comprehension, trying to teach meaning in a very kind of Mercurian kind of way in a book. And so with the Pisces thing, it's like you just have them, you have this knowing, you have the thought, you just know everything. There's no need to organize and dissect and put things into a table of context and put things into a book, because it's just like, okay, that it's everything all at once, you know, and you don't really understand how to dissect things and put things into categories and orders and organize and create a routine that's really mundane and boring, and not this fantasy or that's so flowy with intuition or listening to your body or listening to your surroundings. This is this Piscean kind of vibe, you know, or escape. Like the Virgo earthly realm is so boring and mundane and heavy, and it's like filled with responsibilities that Pisces wants to escape, you know. So if you had your book and your pages that are just all separated, and you just flung all your pieces of paper out into the ocean, because that is how big the ocean is, and it's just like a teeny tiny little piece of, you know, information, and then the words make it even smaller, because once you have the pages there floating in the ocean, they just start sinking, messing around, spreading apart, and no matter what, you can't grab it, you can't seem to fix it, organize it, save it. And the ocean is freaking big. If you've ever been on a cruise ship and you've kind of gone out there and you look 360 around you and there's completely nothing, you start realizing how microscopic you really are when you're out there, and how huge the ocean actually is. So if you were to take something so huge like Pisces, or the ocean of the world, if you were still to stick it on the planet Earth, it's so big that my hands do not fit on the screen. Virgo is a complete opposite. It's like zooming in, microscopic, super detail oriented, noticing every single detail. In order to get this done, you have to do that. In order to get X, Y, and Z done, we need to get all of this done and organized and ready to go in order to do the next step and the next step and the next step. But it doesn't necessarily mean that you learn how to do it in that physical way necessarily. It could be just like learning discernment, learning tiny little details. What could have happened to you is that you were criticized so much, or you had very particular parents or a parent that just wanted to do everything their way because they were also a perfectionist in some way, and they're very particular, they're very nitpicky or whatever, and no matter what you did, it wasn't good enough, or you got criticized for it. So you never felt like you could meet the needs or the perfection of a parent or both or whatever caregiver that you grew up with, and you could have been chewed out for it, or like they got frustrated with you because you're just kind of like floating like this kind of Pisces thing, and they didn't come to you to organize or to clean or to feel needed, to be someone who could be of service, because Virgo is acts of service or health. Could have played out where you literally have challenges with your own health in some kind of way, whether that was you grew up in a home that was already kind of unhealthy. That can be like eating habits healthy, that can be mental health unhealthy. Like maybe you had a depressed parent or an alcoholic parent, and because of their mental health problems that led them to whatever their escapist ways, you didn't feel good enough for them, or you didn't know how to help them. They couldn't tell you what they needed in order to feel needed, be acts of service, learn what a healthy relationship with your body is, because your primary caregiver's example with themselves were not ideally healthy. But I think the main thing with the Virgo in Saturn is kind of criticizing and projecting that criticism onto other people around you if you have not healed it or have not worked on it enough yourself to where you feel like you've actually got it. You are organized, and you become, if you actually work on it, you become very, very organized in your own way, but very organized to where you know how to put structures together and organize things into where you can now be more successful or needed, or people like to come to you for help in some sort of way, and you know how to like care for people, because Virgo is kind of like a hospitality kind of caregiving kind of sign, but in a very workaholic kind of way. So it can also play out like you always had to work, because Saturn is that also workaholic kind of structured sign, and it restricts. So Saturn in Virgo could make a Virgo and Saturn person work a lot. Like you're working and working and working in order to feel like you don't want to be laid off first or get fired. You want to work and work and work to where you might self-sacrifice your body. Like if you're sitting in a cubicle and you're online all the time, and you're just like, you need to work, you want to be the most efficient and productive worker or employee in your company, so that you prove that you are worthy, you are good enough, and you are needed. And to also not get fired or not get laid off first. And so if you're working and working and working to death almost, sometimes you don't drink your water, you don't get up to go to the bathroom or stand up and walk around. You might skip food, or you might snack on snacks a little bit too much that are unhealthy, not healthy. And then you might be so tired at the end of the day because you worked like a 15-hour day and without exercising or eating right, that you just go home, sleep, and repeat it. And so you might neglect your own health. And it's trying to teach you how to have a more healthy routine and work-life balance, or work-life family relationship fun balance with yourself, by having a more efficient routine that may work for you, or noticing the details, because sometimes when you don't think about the details, and it's not until later when they pop up, you're like, oh, I didn't realize this would catch up to me, or this was going to cost that much. And, because you didn't really think about it, it wasn't of importance at the time. And so in order to make up for that time, or to make up for the cost of something, now you need to work harder, or you might self-sacrifice more in order to compensate and make something else happen, because the organization and structure is kind of still not quite there, even though it's kind of like you do have it, or you do want it. That's why you're going to keep striving and striving for perfection, and not being criticized, or feeling like you're not good enough, or like you're going to work really hard to try and avoid being criticized or not good enough, or someone pointing out something about you that makes you feel like you're not good enough once again, but if you don't, work on those things yourself, you might kind of lash out, or kind of put down the people around you in possibly a way that kind of shames them, makes them feel like they have low self-esteem, not like intentionally, maybe you're doing it intentionally, but how it comes across, if you become too critical too often, like you're kind of like beating someone down too often, too much. And it always depends on the recipient who is receiving this, how sensitive they are. Do they take criticism really well? Are you doing it a lot to where they don't even have the time and space to even kind of collect, like, oh, like, yeah, I can see what you're trying to say, and there is truth to that? Or are you beating them down so much to where they also feel like they're not good enough, and no matter what they do, or no matter how they try, and the way that they only know how to try, that they're never going to meet up to your perfectionist needs, because you have a hard time of becoming that organized, pristine, perfect, idealized person that you wanted to be, because of your parents, of what they kind of projected onto you. So just be kind of cautious and aware of that. Me, with my mom having Saturn in Virgo and in the sixth house, she always had kind of some kind of health kind of issue, especially second half of her life. And that's why I had to move home with her in order to help take care of her. But it's just sometimes there can be a lot of nitpicking, criticism, and the way that it can come out can be really frustrated, which can damage the child in some way. And some children will, because you can't control which way your kid is going to kind of go, some will kind of put on a stoic, happy, strong face, but they have low self-esteem and they don't know how to stick up for their own self-worth. They don't have, this kind of strong sense of when to kind of quit before they get deep into something. And that can end up later on revealing itself in their relationships. When you're like, I don't understand. I had the perfect son or daughter. They're so educated, so beautiful or handsome, so catering, so considerate and polite and willing to self-sacrifice. Like, why? Why do they have to be with someone like that? You could do so much better. Like, why do you have to be with someone like that? Like, they're not gonna love and care for you the way that someone else should, And me doing that example is kind of that kind of criticism of kind of giving maybe just advice that there is reason to it and logic to it. But if the receiver has kind of heard that over and over and over again in several different ways ever since they were a child growing up, then eventually, like, they don't want to hear it, and even though they might know, like, yeah, they've accomplished a lot, they've done a lot, they might feel like, yeah, I have a lot of self-worth or whatever, but then based on what they choose to get into kind of shows something else that they're not even aware of, that they kind of lowered themselves or chose to get stuck with something that kind of reveals that they were shamed or put down or overly criticized and have a really hard time standing up for themselves. Or they might be very critical themselves in their mind, like an overthinker, or criticizing everything that they do, or being a extra perfectionist, or seeking perfection themselves. So just kind of be aware of those types of things, because it can be a really hard placement. And if you work on it, you're going to be like a master of it, but it's still just like a challenging kind of placement. So it's like Saturn, think of it as kind of like your karma. I'm a Capricorn sun, so I understand this terrible, yet kind of you respect Saturn, what it does for you, sign. And so having Saturn in the sign of Virgo, because Saturn is already a workaholic sign and Virgo is also a workaholic sign, it can make you kind of work a lot or care about work a little bit too much, to where you can get frustrated in other areas because you just can't do everything on this earthly plane and expect it to be perfect unless you have the finances to have a team of people to do a lot of stuff for you. But that's not really the case for the majority of the population on this planet. So is that it? Is that all I kind of want to say? Hopefully that kind of helped. But yeah, I think that's pretty much it. Otherwise, I'd be too redundant. So check out my website, www.natashascreativewellness.com, if you're interested in my perspective of your natal chart. And check out my book that it will be released on June 30th, 2025. It'll be available on Amazon and in several countries as well, in English. So there's the Kindle version, and it's not up quite yet or available, but paperback and hardback copies. So it's kind of a self story mixed with astrology and tarot. And it starts a little bit, it gets deep into it, into the more adventurous kind of spiritual stuff, almost like a, I don't know, whatever. I don't want to put a label on all of this terminology stuff, but basically into a psychosis episode after a really bad relationship breakup, so it's almost like a weird Alice in Wonderland kind of thing, but in a very different way. So, and it's kind of taught in a way where I'm very self-analyzing, because at the end of the day, you can't control everybody else, no matter how hard you criticize them, because you're working hard and you wish everybody else would work just as hard as you, or maybe you want to be super duper healthy and you're not doing the healthy thing, but you'll nitpick and criticize all these other people who are not thin enough or not muscular enough or whatever, so make sure you self-reflect on anything that might be imbalanced. So yeah. So I also wanted to add that because these people, they can be so critical and nitpicky and detail-oriented that, they can sometimes project that and criticize others, but sometimes it can be a kind of a self-defeating behavior that they want it so perfect that they're like, oh, no, I don't want to do it. I can't do that, because they're afraid that they're not going to do it right, or they're not going to do it well enough, or they're not going to do it perfect enough. Because that is something that I recognize in my mom. So I wanted to add that in there, like you can say that someone works on it and then they become this really well organized perfectionist person who can just do it in a way that nobody else can do that, because Saturn makes you almost like a master of that sign. But that doesn't necessarily translate in that way for everyone, depending on your other placements, what time period this is, what you were willing and not willing to do, and maybe who you chose to be around you to do things for you because you felt like you couldn't do them on your own, or someone else was better at a particular thing than you, so you kind of leaned on that person instead of doing it yourself because you self-doubted that you could even do it. So don't even bother doing it. Get someone else who is better at doing it to do it for you. Or, and so that can be family members. It can be people that you hire. Yuki Poo's here. But so that can be a thing. So these people can self-sabotage in ways to where they just, because when you're a wannabe perfectionist, sometimes you want it to be a certain way. You want everything to look and be a certain way, and you can notice every single detail that's happening. But sometimes that makes someone kind of stuck, and that makes someone kind of stuck, and they just kind of stop, and they just stop trying, and they just kind of lean on other people to kind of do things for them a little bit, because there's this kind of anxiety and worry, and that they're just not going to do it well enough. I noticed my grandma even had, I don't know what her Saturn placement was, but she knew how to speak and write English. She actually knew how to speak and write 4 different languages, but she wouldn't speak that much in English in general to me because she was afraid that it wasn't going to be correct or wasn't going to be good enough. So she just wouldn't really do it. She would just speak Thai. So it's like, yeah, I totally understand you. You don't need to kind of withhold. And sometimes you feel like, oh, she doesn't remember a certain word, because she didn't grow up in the United States at all. Sorry about that. So she didn't grow up in the United States at all or anything like that. But she was very, very smart. So you can see if she did have Saturn in Virgo, she did really, really know these things and is very, very smart because Virgo is a very smart sign. Shh. But that can also hold you back. Like if you're not good enough, you're just not going to do it because you're just worried. So yeah, that can also be a thing. Okay. Sorry, I have another one. So you are literally getting an example of this Saturn in Virgo process with how I'm doing your video because I haven't done these kind of edits and chops and like, oh my God, I should add that to the other videos that I've done so far in the Saturn series. But for you, it seems to be magically doing it in the process that you probably should be doing it for yourself in order to prevent projecting onto other people. Or maybe you still project into other people if you're not aware. But basically, Saturn is trying to teach you the Virgo things in a nutshell. It is trying to teach you that things are slow. You have to do the small little daily task and the mundane, most boring day to day thing to where you're not thinking about the perfection or the end goal or anything. You're just in it. You're doing that opposition Pisces thing of just going with the flow. But Saturn is trying to teach you to actually do the work. And that can play out in just narrowing it down and doing that in literal work, whatever you do. But if you also think of this as health and wellness, mental health, your stress levels, your organization as a whole human being, how do you organize, how you eat at home, how you meal prep, your daily habits, your relationships, your children or pets if you have any. Your alone time, your me time to reflect on, your time to travel or do whatever hobbies and things that you enjoy in order to do all of that and build upon that, because Saturn is kind of like a builder from ground zero to the end game, even if that takes you your entire life. Saturn is trying to teach this Virgo energy of, if you do want perfection, you need to do the daily work in a very small, realistic way every single day, whatever that weak point is for you, in order for it to get better, in order for you to become a master at whatever it is that you want or you feel insecure about and want to improve. Like if you're super messy at home and you don't like it and you always get chewed out for it when you were a kid, clean your room. Why is there nail clippers in the kitchen? Why is your school homework over here? It should belong in your desk. There's a place for things. Why do you lose your keys all the time? You should have a place for your keys. Or have something to help you keep track of your keys or see your keys in a better way instead of just having it randomly everywhere, and then you spend or waste time and make yourself late to appointments because you just can't find your keys. And this seems to be an ongoing problem. So like, what do? This is just one example, but it's just like, okay, you need to have a particular place to set your keys. That it makes sense, it's convenient, efficient, and you practice if you have a problem with it, okay, when you take your keys, you take it from that place that you chose to designate your key, car key, whatever, keychain thing, or your purse. You have your purse in a particular spot. Every single time you go out of the house and back in the house, you put those keys, your wallet or your purse in that same spot. It has a place so that it's not randomly over here, randomly over there. Things are scattered everywhere and then you can't find it and it's disorganized. So that's kind of another example, is breaking things down, making it simple and easy or doable, because whatever is easy for one person is not for another. So whatever is challenging for you, because we need to work on our weaknesses. Otherwise, they'll just keep getting super weak, and that makes people kind of have lower self-esteem. And it's like I always just suck at it, so I'm going to stop trying. And sometimes, yeah, we can, we don't really need to keep trying in an area where we're really not going to use it in real life. But if it does affect your day-to-day well-being or affects your health in the long term, it's learning to dissect these things, picking one small thing that you can do that you want to switch out. I'm starting to do a fitness talk because this is basically what I do for a living as a personal trainer, is, like behavior change. You can know all the information out there. You can have the perfect program out there. You can follow all the Instagram or TikTok influencers out there and try to imitate what they do and this person does and that person does. But that doesn't necessarily mean that works for you or that is efficient for you, or that if they can magically do that in 30 days, that you can also do it in 30 days. It doesn't always work out that way for everyone. And so you have to pick one simple thing that is not serving you, or is kind of bringing you down instead of slowly progressing you up in a positive way. Either remove that negative thing completely or exchange it with something if you need like a new habit or fixation that is either healthier or better or whatever it may be, and see if you can keep that new healthy habit for a long period of time. It can be 1 month. Some people they're challenged with that. 3 months. It takes sometimes 6 months to a year just to kind of get into one habit and stick with it, because if you kind of falter a little bit, even after 30 days, you're going to go back to where you were before in your old habits. You have to do these small little things until it's so ingrained into you that is just like the new version of who you are, so that is another Virgo thing. So also the metaphor of me redoing this video, I don't even know where I'm going to input this cut quite yet. And you'll be like, oh, there's random cuts in my video, and you won't notice, because if you just check your own sign, you probably wouldn't be checking other signs unless you're checking your house placement, which I do recommend you do that. But this is like a process. Like, don't worry about the perfection, or look at me, I just took a shower because I realized like, oh, I should add this in the video. And you know what? Instead of just not doing it, I don't care how I look, or I didn't even brush my hair. I'm totally not Virgo perfect for this video, so you can criticize me all you want, but it's the information and content that is even more valuable instead of how I look in this particular moment in time, because I can change how I look whenever I actually want to an extent, of course. And so this is an example of part of the process is super messy. It's not perfect. It's not organized. Sometimes you need to go back and you need to refine it. And you look at something and you're like, oh, I missed something, or something wasn't as great as I thought it would be. And these critical criticisms can make you really, really great. I'm doing it right now, and it only makes you better, but it depends how you're doing it. Are you doing it in a super negative, pessimistic type way to where like, I'm never good enough, nobody wants me, no one wants to hire me, or nobody wants to do this, or I keep doing this all the time, every single day. Yeah. you know, and that gets draining. It's the same thing over and over again. And eventually other people might not even want to be around you because it's so draining, or they're sick and tired of being criticized when you don't even do the work to make your own life better, and you just rely on other people to do the work for you. And they're willing to do it to an extent, but they have their own life and health to keep up as well, and they can't do everything. So you always have to kind of look at yourself. What are you doing and not doing, and be honest. You know, and can you take that criticism? Maybe you got criticized so much that, you know, I don't know, maybe you have tough skin, which is great, but, you know, in this world, at least, sorry if you were extra criticized. I was criticized a lot, but it made me stronger, and I realized that I knew what was behind the message, even though the delivery of the message wasn't always as great as it could have been delivered. That's me criticizing back at that Saturn Virgo person. But in my head, I never did that out loud. Not really, because I could just tell. You know, I would just get more criticized and in return. So, you know, I had to be very clever and witty with the way I taught her how to be less critical of me. You know, I had to get really creative with that. So, yeah, hopefully this is the last cut. Okay. So check out those things, and hopefully this video helped you. So see you next time.
La 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 la, so